Washington Commanders fans may feel like little bugs are crawling all over their skin, given that their quarterback is Carson Wentz. And look, on the surface, you look at this and you say, what in the hell were the Commanders thinking? To give up 2 third-round picks. The third-round pick can become a second-round pick. And, wait a minute. I think we got that. I think that's... What, the Commanders are getting a 2022 second. Are they flip-flopping second-round picks? Is that what happened? So maybe it's less of a whole lot.
They are.
All right.
The Colts are effectively moving up from 47 overall to 42 overall after they do this pick swap of 2022 picks. Somebody didn't read our story on this.
That's a minor piece. I didn't. No, I don't read that crap. I listen to Aaron Rodgers, and I don't waste my time reading that crap. So I missed the 2022 second-round flip-flop. It's 2 third-round picks, and one of them become a second-rounder. That's the guts of the deal. Yeah. And they're taking on, the Commanders are, the entirety of the compensation package for Carson Wentz, more than $28 million this year. And I think we look at it and say, why? Who else was in this? Well, the problem is, for as motivated as the Colts were to sell Carson Wentz, the Commanders were even more motivated to get anybody, and they gave it away last week. They made it too clear last week. They were burned by the fact that they didn't even get a chance to bid on Matthew Stafford. They were not taking any chances this year, Myles Simmons. They were not going to allow any flanks to be exposed. They found the guy that they were able to get, even if he was playing C, D, E, F, or G, and they were getting him. And Ron Rivera put it best last week. Does anyone remember what the Rams gave up to get Matthew Stafford? That was the indication that this team was going to do whatever it had to do to get a better quarterback.
But did they really get that much of a better quarterback? And I think that the jury's going to be out on that for a little bit. Look, I'm not a really big fan of Carson Wentz. I think he's okay.
I would have never guessed from your Twitter feed.
At times.
I would have never guessed. From your Twitter feed.
Yeah, you wouldn't have? Well, here's the deal, Mike. I mean, I think he's all right, but I go back to the 2016 Senior Bowl, and that was the first time I think anybody among, real NFL media, right, got the chance to see him do much of anything. And I just remember looking at him and seeing that it looked like everything was right when he would start to pass. His base would be good, his drop back would be good, and then he let the ball go and he would just airmail it to these guys that were just like, they were right there and you're just going against air. And I'm like, what the hell is up with this? So from then on, I guess that's kind of affected my perception of Carson Wentz. And look, his 2020 season was a disaster. He was much better in 2021 for the Indianapolis Colts, but when they needed him to be great. Now, Frank Reich talked about this in December and early January. We're going to need Carson Wentz to win a game for us. And when they needed him to do that, he couldn't do it. He was terrible in that last game of the season against the Jacksonville Jaguars when they needed him to be just good enough to win the game and get you into the postseason. So, I mean, if Frank Reich couldn't solve the puzzle that is Carson Wentz, given their history, I'm not really sure how Washington is going to be able to do it.
Well, coaches tend to think that they will be the ones to fix a guy who needs to be fixed. We see it happen with off-field issues. We see it happen with on-field issues. And Zach Kiefer of The Athletic explained that the Colts some in the organization believed that Wentz had a lack of leadership, a resistance to hard coaching, and a reckless style of play. Now, we'd heard about the lack of leadership in the past when he was with the Eagles. We'd witnessed the resistance to hard coaching given the fact that he and Doug Peterson were on the outs in 2020. And the reckless style of play is obvious. He's got a habit of trying to do too much, which puts him in harm's way, which causes him to make dumb throws and or be dragged down by Aaron Donald and sprain both ankles because he had to hold on to the football, because he had to be Superman. He had to try to do something that he isn't able to do. And one of the big qualities, underrated but obvious qualities of a quarterback, is to know your limits, to color within the lines. Jameis Winston has this problem. Carson Wentz has this problem. Others have the problem. They try to do more than they're physically capable of doing. They try to make throws they can't make. They try to extend plays in a way that they physically can't, and they get themselves injured, and they get themselves to do stupid things like this with the left-handed throw that ends up being a touchdown against the Tennessee Titans. That said, the guy was an MVP candidate in 2017 until he tore his ACL in a game against the Rams at the Coliseum. You were probably there. You probably had the voodoo doll, the way it sounds like you don't like this. You wish it's your fault. You put this evil on Carson Wentz. But then in 2018, the problem is he got injured. He was doing well, had the broken back. In comes Nick Foles. They win the Super Bowl, right? No, wait, that was 2017. 2018.
That was 17.
2019.
Foles almost won the game against the New Orleans Saints down there at the Superdome.
That's it. That's it. With the broken back, 2018.
Yeah.
And I actually picked them to win that game. They were up 14-0 against the Saints. That was the game where on the first play from scrimmage, Drew Brees throws the long pass, Crevon LeBlanc with the interception. That was when we all said, well, maybe Drew can't throw the deep ball like he used to, and still played some at a high level for a couple more years after that. 2019 was the year that Wentz, ironically, I think, stayed healthy while everyone else got injured. Yes. And carried the team to the playoffs with a bunch of guys who were like, who's that? Who's this?
Yes.
Who's that? Who's that? They get to the playoffs, and then he gets speared by Jadeveon Clowney and gets knocked out of the game. Josh McCown plays, season over. But and then 2020 was just a mess. But the guy's done some good. He's capable of doing some good. And I think they realized Taylor Heineke was at his ceiling. And Wentz has a higher ceiling if you can just get him to get back there. The problem is, on his way to climb the stairs toward the ceiling, he may fall through the railing and screw up everything. But I just think for a team that has called around to every other team, this is the best they could do. They had to pull the trigger. They knew the lay of the land. They knew what was out there. They knew who they could get, and this was the best they could do. And they weren't going to let try to get into a tough negotiation and have the Steelers swoop in and take him. Again, we don't know who else was out there. I don't think they wanted to take the risk, Myles. They realized this is the best guy we're going to get. He's better than who we have. We're sick of being crap at quarterback. We are making this move, even if we have to pay too much in salary, even if we have to pay too much in draft picks. We are going to do it, and it worked out perfectly for the Colts.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.